What is happening, boys and girls? Jim here, RCAD. Today is June 21st, and we are unboxing another airplane. Yeah, Habu STS 70mm EDF RTF Basic has landed on our channel. And this one's for my brother. Birthday gift for my brother. I believe this is made by Eflite, EFL. So happy birthday, Ian. We got the Habu. Everybody pooled their money in on this, including Ian. He had to throw money in on it too, so it wasn't a total free birthday gift. It's, you know, these things are pretty expensive. You know, airplane, battery, no discounts on things. We got this from AMA and Hobbies. Supposedly, things over, you spend over $300, you're supposed to get $30 off. Well, these guys don't give discounts, and either does Spectrum on their batteries. So no manufacturer discount on things of that nature. So yeah, no breaks on it. That's kind of a little bit of a bummer. We had to pay full price for this bird, and it is what it is. But he wanted it for a birthday gift after I received my Hobby Zone Aero Scout recently, and was, you know, trial and error flying that thing. We got it over here, and we had a second flight out a couple weeks ago and just haven't aired that video as of yet. But nevertheless, he wanted to get a plane, and he wanted to try the Habu STS 70mm EDF. Supposedly you can fly this as a beginner. We'll find out. Once again, we are not an airplane channel for the newcomers, so if you're watching this just to see an unboxing on the Habu, I'm sure there's plenty of other videos out there from other people, such as Brian Phillips or many other people out there that do unboxing videos, great unboxing videos on airplanes. Feel free to check those guys out and gals. I'm a crawler person, so I really don't know too much about airplanes. This is only the second airplane on our channel. So it is what it is. You got questions about crawlers, you got questions about some RC construction equipment and modifying, all the above. Yeah, feel free to talk to me about that stuff. But airplanes, I'm kind of new to this stuff. All right, so we got the Habu STS 70mm. Now, this just arrived today. And once again, we ordered this from AMA and Hobbies, not being sponsored by anybody. But I noticed a couple different shipping labels on here. We had two labels right here that were taped over previously with another label. Not going to this house, just another label. So I peeled off both of those so that we're not giving out people's addresses. The label coming to here was right here. I peeled that off as well. So this box has been somewhere else previously before it showed up here. Now I'm just checking out the box just to make sure everything is good and copacetic. Tape hasn't been broken on this end. That's still the factory tape. Nothing's been laid over top of it, so that seems to be okay. But this end down here has our normal box tape there, and then some paper tape around the outside edge, and this has been opened. And there's a packing slip or something on the inside, or a little ha-ha letter from somebody. Here's an empty box, ha-ha. So yeah, we're not too sure if this baby is 100% intact, but I wanted to make a mental note on that before we start unboxing this, just in case we have to send something back to AMA about this, if it's not all there. So there we go on that nonsense. It went somewhere else before it got here, and we're about to find out if it's totally intact and do an unboxing video. Once again, it's probably going to be a crappy unboxing video, so if you want to see a proper unboxing video on a Habu, I recommend that you check out a airplane channel versus a crawler channel. All right, let's get this baby unboxed. Ian, we're going to get you a knife here and start cutting into this thing and go from there. All right, buddy, go ahead and get her open. No special knives, using a X-Acto knife. Kids, be careful with knives. If you're not a careful kid, have your parents unbox your stuff for you, but hey, there's no fun in that, is there? Let's pull that knife, don't poke yourself. Habu STS. I was debating on this or the SS. It didn't seem like there was that much difference between the airplane, other than bigger motor and being able to run on 4S and 6S on the SS. We'll put that off to the side. They don't need to see packing slip information. As long as it's coming here, we're all good on that nonsense. We've got an AMA sticker. It says that was in there. That showed me that on the receipt. With all the AMA people. What do we got? Yeah, it does say E-Flite right there, E-Flite. So no misadvertising there. Landing gear sensor. I heard bad things about that. Not necessarily needed. We'll go ahead here and slide her out of the box. AS3X, safe select, yada yada yada. It's coming out upside down. It's flying upside down. Sure, we're going to see that view from time to time, and there's just not enough room, is it? That's a big girl. All right, let's get this out of the way. And go ahead and set that down. And spin it around. Try not to disturb our towel. That's a big box, man. I'm sure there's a joke in there somewhere about how big that box is. Yeah. And we're probably going to set that upright a little bit, because that's going to be hard to see. Alright, excuse the lighting, boys and girls, with the camera flash and all that other good nonsense. We're just trying to get used to things out here in the RC workshop still. Haven't done too many unboxings out here as of yet, but I still need to get some more lighting. I need something back here to broadcast light this way to eliminate some of this stuff that you see with my hand in the background there. And our flash from the camera. My apologies for that. Alright, Eflite Advanced Electric Flight Habu STS 70mm EDF electric ducted fan. Smart trainer with safe for the beginner pilot, safe select, I think, right? Skill level 1, no experience required, which is perfect because we have very little to no experience. My brother has no experience flying. I've got a little bit of experience, just a little bit. And that is with the Hobby Zone Aero Scout S2, and I've only had this thing out twice. The first time was just a catastrophic failure. And we crashed this thing 7 times and completely destroyed it on our last crash and then glued it all back together. I've had it out one more time since then. You guys and gals may or may not have seen that. But, you know, we've only had 2 flights with the Aero Scout. And other than a flight simulator that was so graciously donated to the channel from a viewer, and I can't thank that viewer enough, very much appreciated for donating out this flight simulator, a Phoenix 5.5. It's a basic flight simulator. It's outdated, came with this transmitter, but hey, it's perfect for learning how to fly. And you need something like this before you go out and fly, just to get the muscle memory required for figuring out the orientation of your plane in the air as your plane is moving away from you and getting further and further away. It's getting smaller and smaller and smaller as it goes. Excuse the bad focus there. It's getting smaller as it goes. And then it makes it hard to differentiate which way the plane is going when you're trying to bring it back at you. So you need to develop that muscle memory on your transmitter and in your mind, so you know which way to spin that plane around to bring it back. And a flight simulator is perfect for that. It's also perfect for crashing because you can crash it a million times and it doesn't cost you a penny. Whereas if you crash it in the real world, such as we did with my Aero Scout, 7 crashes, man, and it did that plane in. She was in really bad shape. Really, really bad shape. It's been glued from head to toe. Completely ripped apart. Ripped the motor off it. Ripped the main wing off the fuselage. Just totally separated. Just destroyed it. And able to glue it back together. But once again, it was pretty much totaled on our first time out. So if you want to try to learn via trial and error, it's going to be very expensive. Getting a flight simulator first and practicing on a flight simulator is the best way to go. Trust me, I'm a cheap guy. I was planning on going the cheap route and going by trial by error, but no, that's very expensive. I can't thank that viewer enough once again for donating that to the channel. That's been a huge help. All right, so the E-Flite for the beginner pilots. He's a beginner. I'm definitely a beginner as well. What's included? Let's see the side panel for details. Once again, excuse me for bouncing all over the map here. Habu STS 70mm EDF sitting on a slight angle here. We want to move that tape measure there again. We'll get this squared off here so we can get a better shot at it. Excuse the redundancy as we read some of this stuff over and over again. E-Flite, registered trademark, advanced electric flight, Habu STS 70mm, electric ducted fan, EDF. Smart trainer with safe, registered trademark for the beginner pilot. Ready to fly, basic version, RTF stands for ready to fly. Ready to fly, RTF, basic aircraft includes everything you need to fly except for a battery and charger. This allows you to choose a convenient and money-saving Spectrum, trademark, power stage bundle, or the separate battery and charger you prefer sold separately. So you can run a Spectrum battery and charger on here, or whatever battery you prefer. If you want telemetry information and battery information being sent back to your transmitter, then you want to run the Spectrum stuff. If you don't care about the telemetry stuff and the battery information, then feel free to run whatever you want to run, as long as you don't exceed the voltage requirements or the amperage, milliamp requirements, or the C rating requirements for the electronic speed controller. As long as you stay with the required battery that it tells you to get, as long as it's within those milliamps and voltage requirements, you should be okay. Just covering bases on that stuff. As far as running the Spectrum stuff, if you want the telemetry information and battery information being sent back to your transmitter, then feel free to get the Spectrum stuff. I've got a Spectrum battery for my Aero Scout airplane, but I don't have a Spectrum charger. There's 2 different Spectrum batteries. There's a Generation 1 and a Generation 2 with the smart batteries. Generation 1 has a balance plug on it. Generation 2 does not. So the Generation 2 smart batteries require a smart charger. Generation 1 smart batteries do not. So these are 3 Generation 1 batteries right here, not for this airplane, but for the Aero Scout. 3S LiPos, 2200 milliamp, which is a 2.2 amp, 11.1 volt, and this is a 50C, I want to say, on the discharge rate. Oh, it's a 30C discharge rate. Excuse me. So this has a balance plug on it right here, as well as this third wire running up in between the main positive and negative. Now that third wire is what sends that voltage information back to the transmitter to let you know what the battery voltage is. The Generation 2 lithium polymers do not have this balance plug on them. So the Generation 1s that have the balance plug, you can charge on a ProTech charger, you can charge it on a high-tech charger, or any other lithium polymer charger, as long as you've got a compatible connector. You don't have to plug in this third wire either. I plug it in with a, what am I using? I'm using a EC3 connector right here is what I'm using. And it doesn't have that third wire in the middle, and it'll still charge those batteries because you have to plug it into the balance plug as well. Now, Generation 2s do not. Once again, they just have the 3-wire system right here, and it does everything off of these 3 wires. Now, these batteries also have a nice feature to them as well. They are a smart battery pack, which means that if you don't, like if you charge this battery up and you don't fly your airplane for a couple of days, let's say 3 days, this battery will automatically put its own storage charge on there. So it'll discharge itself back down to a safe level. And I've experienced this a couple times, so I've read it a few times too, so don't quote me on it. But to my knowledge, the Generation 1 and Generation 2 smart batteries, if you do not put a storage charge on them, let's say you charge them up to go flying and you don't fly your plane and you don't put these back down to a storage level, they will do it on their own after 2 or 3 days. And I've witnessed it myself. They do put their own little storage charge on them, I suppose. It sucks the voltage down, but it actually kind of pulls it down, I think, a little bit below the safe level. I'm not too sure. I put them back on my battery charger for a storage charge after the fact just to make sure. But the smart batteries will supposedly put themselves back down to a storage charge if you don't discharge them. And that's nice. That keeps your batteries around for a long time, stops them from swelling. It's a good thing to have. So it's just another reason to have the Spectrum stuff. As far as the Generation 1 versus Generation 2, that's up to you. I prefer to use my own charger, so I'm not too worried about the Generation 2. All right, what's included? Let's check all that stuff out here with our Ready to Fly basic version. We've got a bunch of check marks here with things that are installed and things that are not included. Glare, that's included. What's included? Motor, brushless inrunner with 70mm 10-blade fan that is installed. ESC, 70 amp brushless telemetry capable electronic speed controller. Servos, we've got 5 micro servos. Flight controller, I'm pretty sure that's like part of the receiver is this flight controller. The receiver is like a 2-part deal from what I've seen. It's got like a small little receiver portion, and then it's got the flight controller that all your servos plug into. So it's like 2 different things here that make up the receiver. So the flight controller and this receiver are kind of the same thing. You can't fly the plane without the flight controller. And you can't fly the plane with a flight controller and no receiver. So you have to have both of these in order to make it work. Or if you had a different receiver, you could do everything off that receiver. Like, let's say the Spectrum receiver that comes in the AeroScout. The Habu STS or the Habu SS 70mm, the SS, the next stage up from this, comes with the same receiver that's inside the AeroScout. So it doesn't have this 2-part flight controller and receiver. It just has the regular AeroScout style receiver. So don't know why they have these two separated, but that's just the way it is. So it has a flight controller, which is part of the receiver technically. Spectrum 3230B with AS3X and safe technologies. Once again, registered trademark. Receiver Spectrum 4650 serial. So it's just a very basic thing. It's a circuit board with a couple wires hanging off it and a couple antennas hanging off of it, and that's it. And then it plugs into the flight controller, and all your servos plug into the flight controller. So once again, 2-part deal with those two. Transmitter, Spectrum DXS 2.4 GHz DSMX transmitter. Battery, not included. Required, charger required as well. So as far as the battery goes, they say a 3S or 4S LiPo, 3200 to 4000 milliamps. So that's 3.2 amps to 4 amp lithium polymer with EC3 or IC3 connector. Charger, 3S or 4S lithium polymer compatible. Once again, charger, whatever you prefer. If you run a Spectrum system, then, feel free to get a Spectrum charger or whatever you want. We already went through that stuff. And that's what you need to complete, is the battery and the charger. Back to the front half of the box after checking out that side. Eflite Advanced Electric Flight, once again, registered trademark, Habu STS 70mm EDF electric ducted fan. Smart trainer with safe for the beginner pilot, registered trademark on our safe. Skill level 1. Easy to fly with exclusive, safe, registered trademark technology. Optimized design for improved low-speed handling and performance. We'll see about that. I don't see any flaps on here. I just see ailerons, and they are really on the far surface of the wing. So I'm like really, really far out on the outside of the wing. So there's room to put flaps on here if you wanted to cut some in. But we'll see about that low-speed handling. Very durable, constructed of advanced EPO material. What's EPO? Once again, boys and girls, I asked this on the unboxing for the Aero Scout what EPO was. Does that stand for elastic polymer? I'm not too sure. I suppose I should just look it up online and answer my own question, since nobody has answered me yet as to what EPO stands for. Why don't they put EPO down under here, what EPO stands for? They do that with everything else, don't they? With ready to fly. I mean, they tell you ready to fly, RTF, and they give you the breakdown on that on the side, right? It's just RTF, right? Ready to fly. So why don't they have an EPO and what the EPO stands for? I don't understand. Either way, we'll Google it and we'll find out and add it in here. High power 3S and 4S compatible motor and 70 amp ESC. Fly this model in Real Flight Simulator in the trainer edition of Real Flight. So if you get the Real Flight Simulator, you can fly this model in there. Purchase the Real Flight Training Edition RC Flight Simulator and the Spectrum WS2000 wireless simulator dongle, both sold separately, to fly this and other models using the transmitter included with the RTF basic version. So just like this DXX transmitter over here, DXS transmitter, not X but S, you can plug in the wireless dongle and use that with the Real Flight Simulator. Or at least the basic version, supposedly. Maybe with the full version, I'm not too sure. Horizon Hobby is designed, built, and backed, established in 1985. So that's everything on this side of the box. And checking out the top of the box, not much to see up there, just a plane. Same nonsense. And we've got a little bit more information over here on this side, so we'll spin it around. Checking out this side of the box, we got a few things on here. Double H, Horizon Hobby is designed, built, and backed. Horizon Hobby is a world leader in RC fun. Every product we make, they make, not me, is driven by industry-leading innovation and engineering and backed by exceptional customer service and support. Once again, I'm not being sponsored by anybody, so that's their words, not mine. This model features these exclusive Horizon Hobbies innovations. So some Horizon Hobbies inventions or innovations with the AS3X, the safe, beginner mode, intermediate mode, experience mode, panic recovery mode. Our little landing sensor down here, if you wanted to get that. All Horizon Hobbies innovations, supposedly. This model features these exclusive Horizon Hobbies innovations. Once again, AS3X ready-to-fly version model is equipped with a Spectrum flight controller featuring AS3X artificial stabilization 3-axis technology that works behind the scenes to smooth out the effects of wind and turbulence, so you enjoy a sense of stability and precision that makes it feel like you're flying a much larger, expertly tuned aircraft. So the AS3X, when you're flying in rough weather, and it's got a gyro built into the receiver, basically. And when it starts getting out of balance, it starts balancing itself out. So it adjusts the ailerons automatically and the tail rudder and elevator automatically to compensate for that stuff. Now, old school pilots and myself probably would prefer to do it themselves and to learn how to compensate for that stuff yourself, so you're not relying on that technology. Like when you trim out your aircraft, you have to trim it out in expert mode. That way that safe select is off. And then you get your trim all set up right, your elevator trim and your aileron trim and your rudder left to right trim. You get all that stuff figured out with the safe select turned off. That way that gyro isn't trying to compensate for things. And then you turn the gyro back on, so it helps you out and holds your hand if you need somebody to, if you need that extra little handhold. Now, my experience so far with the AS3X, I haven't tried it on the Habu, but my experience so far with it has really not been all that good on my Aero Scout. The only time that's really come into play is during our last video when I parked it in a tree a couple times and we dropped it back out of the tree. It leveled itself out before it hit the ground. So that's the only time that I've really had any good luck with that AS3X. Yeah, I'm not trying to say anything bad about the AS3X. It's a great setup if you're high enough up in the air for it to compensate for it. Technically speaking, from what I hear, you have to be 3 mistakes high, or they want you to be 3 mistakes high. So high enough up in the air that you can afford to take care of 3 mistakes, right, or compensate for 3 mistakes. It's kind of the same thing with the AS3X safe mode. With the safe mode, they want you to take your hands off the controller, and the plane will level itself back out if you get into a panic. But only if you're high enough up in the air for that to happen. If you start to come down like this, and you're only a few feet off the ground, let's say 15 or 20 feet off the ground, and you panic and you let go of the controller, TS, man, that baby's going into the ground. You just lost your plane. It doesn't matter if you have safe select on or not. So you have to be high enough up in the air in order for that to react fast enough. It's a slow reaction with AS3X. It's not really a fast reaction. And the movements that it makes on your controlled surfaces are minimalistic compared to in expert mode or in experience mode. In experience mode, you've got full pull with your ailerons, full pull with your elevator, and full pull with your tail rudder. In safe mode, you do not. You're limited on your elevator, and you're limited on your tail rudder. You're limited, I said rudder, and you're limited on your ailerons as well for your overall movement. So for that thing to react, it's got to be high enough up in the air to do it. Otherwise, its reaction is kind of slow to bring the plane back up. So once again, if you're coming down like this, and you're like, you let go of the controller, well, it's too late. That baby's going into the ground regardless. So you have to be high enough up in the air in order for that AS3X to really work and make use of it. Otherwise, I haven't had much use out of it, once again, because it automatically balances itself and compensates for the wind, which is stuff that you should be learning for on your own anyways. And that's what I think a professional pilot would probably tell you. But that's just my opinion on that. I'm old school. I'm like 50 years old, so, you know, I like to feel that stuff on the transmitter myself, and I don't have much use for the AS3X so far. But we'll read everything off of that stuff. We'll finish reading the description. So, learn to fly successfully with safe technology. If this is your first RC airplane, Horizon Hobby's exclusive safe sensor-assisted flight envelope technology prevents overcontrol and crashing while also offering multiple flight modes to deliver more control and capabilities as your skills progress. So 3 different flight modes, once again: beginner mode, intermediate mode, and experience mode, all at the flip of a switch. Alright, beginner mode. Excuse the glare, boys and girls. In this flight mode, the airplane has pitch and bank angle limits to prevent overcontrol that can result in a loss of orientation and crashes. When the control sticks are released on the transmitter, the airplane automatically returns to level flight if it's high enough in the air on its own, allowing you to relax and enjoy just steering the airplane around through the sky. This flight mode also makes it easier to take off and land, supposedly. So it's limiting your up and down on your elevator, your pitch, as well as your roll on your ailerons. I think it limits your tail rudder as well, but I'm not too sure, so don't quote me on that. Alright, intermediate mode. This one's going to give you just a little bit more pitch and a little bit more roll. This flight mode allows more freedom in pitch and bank, but still prevents significant overcontrol, and the airplane does not return to level flight on its own. This allows you to make tighter turns and to climb and descend faster as your skills advance. So intermediate mode, the safe mode is kind of turned off. It's not going to automatically level itself out. It's only automatically going to level itself out in beginner mode or if you hit the panic button. So once you go to intermediate mode, it's going to give you a little bit more on your pitch and roll, but it's not going to level the plane out. So, I mean, really, you can pretty much just go from beginner mode to experience mode, right? And just go full pull. If you're not getting the balancing out automatically, if you're losing that between the two, you might as well just go from here to here. Experience mode. In experience mode, there are no pitch or bank angle limits, so you have complete control. You can fly inverted upside down and perform aerobatic maneuvers, including loops, rolls, and more. Panic recovery. We got a panic recovery button or panic recovery mode button on the transmitter at the top left corner of the transmitter. There's a little button up there. If you're in the intermediate mode or experience mode and you lose control of your airplane and you're high enough in the air that it can recover, you hit and hold that panic recovery button and let go of the control sticks, and the plane will level itself out as long as you're high enough in the air for that to happen. Otherwise, it's going to go straight into the ground. So, panic recovery mode. Let's read this off real quick. Excuse the flash once again. If you lose control of the airplane in the intermediate or experienced flight modes, simply press the panic recovery button or switch to beginner mode and release the control sticks. So, you have to release the sticks on the airplane at the same time. So, I don't know if it'd be faster to switch it to the beginner mode and release the sticks, or just to hold the button and release the sticks. One way or the other. If you're in a panic, everything's going by pretty darn fast, so good luck with that. So hit and release the control sticks on the transmitter, and safe technology will return the airplane to level flight. As long as you're high enough in the air, once again. You got to be high enough in the air for that stuff to take over, because your ailerons and all the other movement is a little bit less in safe select mode. It's not going to activate as quick and not going to move as far, so if you're close to the ground and you hit it, you're too late, it's going to go into the ground. You'd be better off having your own reaction time to hit the elevator and aileron or whatever you got to do to pull it back out versus trying to hit that button and letting the computer take over, because it's still going to drive itself into the ground regardless if it's not high enough in the air for that safe technology to work. It's good technology. I'm not saying anything bad about it. It's great for people, for beginners, but At the same time, you can't rely on it for saving your plane if you're not high enough in the air. You have to be high enough up in the air in order for that to work. If you're not high enough, it's going to go into the ground. Once again, I can't state that enough. All right, that being said, let's move on to our optional landing assist sensor, LAS, for smoother landings. So they got this little sensor here that you can plug into the bottom of the plane or install on the bottom of the plane and plug into the receiver or the flight controller or whatever that thing is. And that'll supposedly help you land your plane a little bit smoother. I think all it does, don't quote me on this, I think all it does is it flares your wings, your elevator as you get close to the ground. So when you start to land, it'll tell you in your instruction manual, or an experienced pilot will tell you just before you touch ground to kind of pull up on the elevator a little bit and just kind of flare the airplane a little bit and you know, lift it up a little bit before you touch down. They're going to tell you that. This will automatically do that for you. So just like the beginner mode, with it automatically leveling itself out, this is kind of taking something away from what you should be learning on your own. So you should be learning to land your plane without this. Technically speaking, having this on there is not going to make you a better pilot. Flying without it would make you a better pilot. Same thing with the safe mode. Flying without it will make you a better pilot. But the safe mode might make you feel a little bit more comfortable as a beginner. So there you go. So they got this optional landing assist sensor here that'll automatically flare your elevator a little bit just before you land. So is it a good thing? Is it a bad thing? It's up to you. If you want to spend the money, go ahead. But we're not going to worry about it. So that's everything that's on this side of the box. Moving on to the back side of the box, redundancy, Eflite Habu STS 70mm EDF electric ducted fan, smart trainer with safe registered trademark for the beginner pilot. Good looking plane. If you get rid of the flash, you can fly a jet. We'll read that here in a second. There's our plane upside down. Some black stripes across the bottom of the wings to give you a little bit more idea of where your plane's at in the air. Different colors on either side give you even better idea on your orientation on which way you're facing. Especially, once again, when that plane starts getting further and further and further away and it's out of your sight and you're really just relying on muscle memory to get that thing turned back around. Other than markings on the plane, this is not very well marked. It looks good, once again, and I marked the heck out of my Aero Scout, which doesn't necessarily look good. I put red on the sides of the wings on the one side and green on the other side, on the tail and leading edges of the main wing, just to make this thing a little bit easier to see in the air. And it does. You can definitely see it a lot easier when it's flying, and better orientation on where the plane's at and which way it's facing. But especially when it gets further away. When it's all uniform, it looks great, but maybe harder to see as it gets further through the further away from you. Once again, I'd be impressed if they had a return to sender button on the plane, so you could just hit it, and that baby would fly right on back to your where you took off from. You need like a GPS and probably a camera on there or something, but a return to sender button would be nice to have for the new pilots, at least. That's my thoughts. All right, so you can fly a jet. Let's read this just to make sure that we can fly a jet. And not everybody's going to be able to read this just because our flash is definitely in the way. So I'll read this off for you, boys and girls. Nearly everyone who sees a radio-controlled RC jet tear across the sky has the same reaction. I want to fly one of those. But because of their speed and handling challenges, RC jets have been almost impossible for the first time or low-time RC pilots to fly successfully. So very difficult to learn how to fly a jet just because they're so darn fast. Until now. Thanks to Eflite Habu STS smart trainer with safe 70mm EDF electric ducted fan, you can actually learn to fly airplanes successfully with a jet. So the Habu STS 70mm EDF is based on the legendary Habu, one of the best high-performance electric ducted fans sport jet platforms ever created. E-Flight engineers optimized the design to improve its low-speed handling and slow-speed performance, and added options for taking advantage of the exclusive Spectrum trademark safe flight assistance technology. As a result, the Habu STS 70mm EDF is the easiest to fly RC jet ever, and the perfect choice to satisfy any RC pilot's desire to fly a jet. So there we go. That's a lot of words in that little area. Not necessarily a jet. It is a ducted fan through there. It's, you know, I guess it's a jet, but it's not a turbine. But it's a ducted fan. It's like a ducted fan in a shop vac tube with some wings on it, you know. Put a leaf blower motor, electric leaf blower motor, high powered, in a shop vac tube, and strap some foam wings on it, and that's pretty much what you got. And moving on to the right corner, Horizon Hobbies, designed, built, and backed, established in 1985. It was a good year. I remember 1985. was in elementary school. Optimized for easy flight. Checking out our plane here and our dimensions. It weighs 2.5 pounds or 1.9 kilograms with a 3S 4000 milliamp battery. Probably weighs just a little bit more with a 4S. And if you add a Sky ID on here, it's going to add a little bit more weight to it as well. Not too much, just a little bit. Overall dimensions, we are 45 inches long or 1,140 millimeters, 1,140 millimeters. 40.5 inches wide or 1,033 millimeters. So that's our overall dimensions, height and width. Optimized for easy flight. Once again, boys and girls, I'll read this stuff off for you so you don't have to worry about that annoying flash right there. You're never going to be able to read it with that stuff. Engineered for improved low-speed handling and performance to make flying and landing easier, the Eflite Habu STS, Smart Trainer with Safe, so that's what STS stands for, Smart Trainer with Safe Technology, 70mm EDF electric ducted fan, makes it possible to succeed in learning to fly with a jet as your first ever radio-controlled RC airplane. So they were saying, once again, that if you've never flown an RC airplane before in your life, you can learn to fly with this as your first plane. Yeah, are you going to bring it back in one piece? Maybe not. We'll see about that. I didn't exactly bring that thing home in one piece. That is for sure. Bring a garbage bag with you on your first flight because you might be taking it home in several pieces. And buy some foam-to-foam glue for Pete's sakes. This is recommended. I watched a video from Brian Phillips, and he recommended getting some of this stuff. And yeah, get some of this stuff too. When you order your airplane, your first airplane, order a tube of this stuff to go along with it, because you're probably going to need it. I definitely needed it, that's for sure, to put my plane back together, and I didn't get it until after the fact. So it's definitely needed. Get some foam to foam so you can glue that baby back together if you have to. So once again, they're saying that you can fly this as your very first plane if you've never flown a plane before in your entire life. My brother's never flown a plane before, just in a simulator. And if it wasn't for that simulator, this would be his first trial flight. My first trial flight wasn't so good. I used the simulator, and my second time out was better. You guys haven't seen that yet, or maybe you have. One somewhat successful landing, and we parked it in a tree twice, so it got a little bit better. But, you know, still really haven't landed it successfully. I had several takeoffs and landings in my driveway, where I was practicing taking off and landing in my driveway. We'll check that out, not to get too far off track from our video here. But I live in the Northwoods of northern Michigan. I can't really fly around here. I'm surrounded by trees. I mean, like, surrounded by trees. So flying around here, there's my dad, isn't necessarily an option. Unless you have like a UMX, which is an ultra micro plane. So I had my plane out here, and I was driving down there past my dad to that little turnaround point and taxiing down past that turnaround point towards the road. And I turned the plane around and accelerate towards me. Now to get it in the air about where the that second driveway turn is right there, and it'd be in the air ever so briefly, maybe 5 or 10 feet in the air, and I'd land it just by the sidewalk here, between the sidewalk and the wellhead. And then I'd spin it back around and taxi back down to the end of the driveway and try it again. So I did several takeoffs and landings in my driveway, which weren't on film, but I landed the plane, landed and took off about 20 times after my second flight here in the driveway, which worked out pretty good. But flying a plane around here, it's just not going to happen. It's just not going to happen. There's no way. There's just not enough room. Unless, once again, it's an ultra micro, a UMX. All right, so where were we here? Our safe technology and all that nonsense here. Smart trainer with safe EDF, blah, blah, blah. First ever radio-controlled airplane, blah, 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 blah. Where would we leave off on this thing? I can't even remember. We were talking about takeoffs and landings. Yeah, looking at our plane. And anyway, where were we at? All right, flying your first ever radio-controlled airplane. Once again, so they're saying that you could fly this as your first airplane ever. Once again, sorry for bouncing all over the map there. It'll try to find out where I was at. And we are right here. Based on one of the best electric ducted fan EDF sport jets ever designed, it's been optimized with the addition of safe technology, sensor-assisted flight envelope technology, featuring beginner, intermediate, and experienced flight modes to make it easy to fly successfully, especially with the help of an instructor. Now, they didn't say nothing about an instructor there. They said anybody can fly. They didn't mention anything about an instructor, but they're saying especially with the help of an instructor. Well, no kidding on that, right? Wide stance tricycle landing gear with a steerable nose wheel and oversized tires allows for takeoffs and landings on surfaces ranging from paved runways to grass and even dirt. Maybe not my gravel driveway, but grass, dirt, paved runway, okay. Plus, you can install the optional landing assist sensor, LAS, which is probably useless, that automatically flares for smoother landings to make learning to land even easier. Best of all, the durable EPO airframe. There's no definition of EPO. Once again, they've got definitions for all the other breakdowns here. LAS, landing assisted sensor. EPO. Where's the definition for EPO? It's not there. So we'll put one in here. I'll look it up. EPO airframe assembles quickly and easily without the need of glue or special tools, which means you can be ready to fly in less time than it takes to charge the battery. So you can get this baby put together in no time, less time than it takes to charge the battery to put it together, and we'll find out because we'll do that on camera. Spectrum DXS smart radio with 2.4 gigahertz DSMX technology is included. 3S and 4S compatible brushless motor and 70 amp telemetry capable ESC is included. Very durable, advanced EPO construction with no breakdown on what EPO stands for. Safe technology, easy to use, flight modes and panic recovery mode, crash prevention. Optimized design for improved low-speed handling and performance. Factory installed servos and linkages. AS3X unmatched stability and precision of AS3X technology. Wide stance landing gear with oversized tires for easy takeoffs and landings. 3 stars, easy assembly, no glue required. Alright, so that is everything that's on this side of the box. We only have one more side to go, and then we can crack this baby open. Alright, excuse the weird angles. This back side is pretty simple to read off. It's just basically the same thing we read off in several different languages here. DE, which is probably German. I could be wrong. FR, which is probably French. I could be wrong. IT, which is probably Italian, but I could be wrong. And then we've got some stuff in English over here. Age recommendations not for children under 14 years old. This is not a toy, and it probably says that in a few different languages. Horizon Hobbies, LLC, 2904 Research Road, Champaign, Illinois, 61822 USA, www.horizonhobbies.com, Horizon Hobby GmbH. Yeah, that's in Germany. 2022 Horizon Hobbies, LLC, Eflite Safe with Safe logo, AS3X, DSMX, DSMM2, EC3, IC3, and the Horizon Hobbies logo are trademarks or registered trademarks of Horizon Hobbies, LLC. The Spectrum trademark is used with the permission of Bachmann Industries Incorporated. All other trademarks, service marks, and logos are property of their prospective owners. Actual products may vary slightly from the photo shown. Yada, yada, yada. 337490. Ready to Fly version features exclusive DSMX, A3X, and safe select technologies. That's an awful. US 9. Yeah, okay, so there we go. These are probably patents, select technologies, and those are probably patent numbers right there. So there's a peek at all the patent numbers. You can pause it and take a picture of it, and there you go. And warning, this product can expose you to chemicals known to the state of California to cause cancer. Of course they do. And birth defects and other reproductive harm. You know, all fun things do that in California, cause reproductive harm. But apparently in California, there's just nothing fun going on in California. Because, you know, everything that's bad, or everything that's fun is labeled bad for you, apparently. Alright, so that's the last thing on the box. Let's get this baby open and see what she looks like on the inside. No tape on either end, so no tape on my Aero Scout either.
And look at that, right side up.
That's a good guess. I see a transmitter. I see some wings. I see Habu. Hello. I see a spot for a landing assist sensor, the LAS, which we will not be getting. We don't believe in that. Batteries, double A's. Double A's. Velcro. Yeah. ESC battery. Alright, well I'm going to move Habu's box over here. Nothing else inside there. Nothing else inside. Inside there. Here's a quick peek on the inside of the box before we start putting her together. A lot of stuff in here, and it's different than I thought. I figured the fuselage and the wings would be two separate pieces, but it looks like we got like the lower half of the fuselage and the wings are one piece. So that's interesting. Sorry for the close-up views. Our transmitter's down here. There's the main fuselage right there with the nose cone where the battery would get inserted. The upper portion of the fuselage. Going back to this portion back here, which is probably where the tail joins in with the ducted fan. we got some gear here. There's the rear nozzle that goes on the back of the plane. Our rear wings are back there for the elevators. And this might be our tail rudder right here on the side. Alright, we'll get the camera chucked in a tripod and get this baby out of the box and start slapping her together. Alright, continuing along with our unboxing here. My brother is gone off to do other things, and we're going to continue along and cut some tape. Trying to be careful with some of this foam stuff just because it makes such a mess. Slide out some double A's out of this portion. Our 4 AA batteries. No name. Use the tape. Had a little accident there. Alright, well, what else we got to cut out of here? A little bit more tape holding our main wing in. I'm going to try to peel this one off. Maybe just get it out of the way. So here's our main wing section and fuselage, as I was saying earlier, which is terrible. We're not getting that on film. What's going on there? There we go. Sorry for the glare, boys and girls, but that's the main wing section there. We do have a little plug-in right here, S connector. A couple other pins, probably for aligning things. Not too sure if I really like the way these servos look right here. Oh, that's just a linkage. Never mind. That's just a linkage. No big deal. And this has a cover going over top of the linkage. So I thought that was some kind of a rod coming out of there. I didn't realize that it was just a standard turnbuckle or steering clamp there and a rod going through, and it's just a cover. So everything's okay with our lower section. It's only my second airplane, so you don't forgive the ignorance there. And once again, aileron's pretty small. Not a lot of control surface there. Definitely gives you a lot of room to add flaps if you wanted to cut some flaps in and put your own flaps, custom set of flaps on it. So there's our lower section right there. We'll put that off to the side carefully. Try not to damage it. Well, this is the little tail portion of the plane, the cone that goes on the back. Whatever that's for, I don't know what it's called, prospect ring cone or whatever. Could be way off on the names. We've got our landing gear and some other parts in here. Servo for the front of the steering wheel and our rear landing gear. So there's our servo for the front nose wheel. This whole little piece needs to get attached. Some other servo horns. And our rear wheels. Or the main wheels. Just going to kind of slide some of this foam out of the way. Next little section I'm pulling out is the tail section. Its glory. So our tail section of the bird with the corresponding servos. So I think we've got one right here which is going to go to our rudder because it's not hooked up yet, and we don't have our tail rudder hooked up yet. Hopefully we're getting this on camera. We've got one going to our rudder right here, and this is going to our elevators on the back. There's our S connectors for both of those. And that's one half of the tail. I like the stickers. Pretty bright. Up front here, I'm pulling out the engine, or the cowling, or whatever the heck that is. The the canopy. That's it. The canopy. Duh. Well, there's a quick peek at the canopy. My apologies for any kind of poor lighting. Where it gets locked into the back and clicks into a notch on the front. Little driver figure in there. There is some gauges and whatnot in there. I don't know if we're going to catch that, but yeah, little stickers. Barely see it, but it does have a little bit of limited interior on the inside. What do we got next here? Pull out our main fuselage. Feels like a rubber tip on the nose, just for you guys who don't know. A little bit flexible there. Looking at the inside of our body, where our battery would sit. Little release for the canopy right there. Now this is part of our two-part receiver. This is the receiver right here, the serial receiver with the antenna wires. And that gets plugged into this controller right here, the flight controller. So instead of having a standard receiver that all your servos would plug into, this has got a separate receiver over here, a little small one, and then our flight controller. So a two-part receiver essentially. And I think this is like an 8-channel receiver, ultimately. Yes, it is. It does have 8 channels on it. We're probably not going to pick it up, but that is an 8-channel receiver. Well, flight controller, not a receiver. Alright, so looking at the underside here, there is our ducted fan and our ESC. Our ESC, see the cooling fins on it right there. Our ducted fan right here. Right there. Brushless outrunner. Not bad. And another plug right there, S connector. Threaded insert there. Another spot there to thread in. 2 more inserts right here. A couple more inserts right there, possibly. And where our nose wheel gets attached right here in this hollow area. With its corresponding servo wire S connector, female, on that side. So there is the back portion of the plane. I never realized that was like a little cobra on there, or a snake face. I guess I never looked that closely at it. But yeah, there's the intake. And that is our 70mm ducted fan. So sorry about the poor angles. I can't see behind the camera. Hopefully it came out okay. Alright, next up the bat, what do we got here? This is the tail. Kids, be careful with knives. This cowling on the inside where it fits over the back of the bird, I'm sure. And our little rudder back there. It's got a lot of movement, but I'm not sure if we're going to ever see that much movement out of it, or that much deflection out of it, left or right. But it does have quite a bit of deflection. If you were to move it to each to each cut there to its maximum, it's quite a bit of deflection, but I don't think it's going to get that much movement. So there is the tails portion of the plane. Alright, last thing to come out of here is our transmitter. They've got it held in with a little piece of Velcro, an extra battery Velcro, it looks like. That's nice. If I can get it out of here. So that's cool. They included an extra strap in there holding the transmitter down. An extra battery strap, essentially. So that's nice that they had that in there. Very cool that they included that. That was holding the transmitter down. Cool. We've got 2 Velcro straps in there right now holding it down for the battery, and they gave us an extra. Pulling out the transmitter, battery cover was not on the transmitter. And we've got our standard DXS transmitter. I gotta say that the movements on this, excuse me here, the movements on this, you can hear it, right? You hear that drag? You hear the spring for sure, but there's definitely a lot of excess drag on there. Some pretty tight transmitter. Back half where our 4 AA batteries will be installed, and you can plug in the wireless dongle to the back of that. Little 3 selection switch up here. We have safe mode, intermediate mode, experience mode right there. This is our panic button, so no matter what mode you're in, if you start to panic, you just press and hold that button, let go of the controller, and the plane will level itself out once again, as long as you're high enough in the air for that to compensate and to kick in. Otherwise, you're going to crash. You're better off trying to pull out on your own. So there we go on our DXS transmitter. Very basic transmitter. I forgot to add in that we do have our power light up here with these bars. That's for the power on the transmitter. And we have those four little circles. Those light up green, and that is the battery power on the airplane itself. And as the battery goes down on the airplane, these little circles will start to drop away. Alright, so there's a peek at the transmitter once again. Well, that's everything that's in the box, boys and girls. We get this thing put away. Get all our foam and stuff put back inside. How many people does it take to get the airplane box back in the box? Apparently, that is a big box. I don't know what we're going to do with that thing, but it's huge.
Wow. I don't want to get rid of that.
It takes some real estate. Just cut the face off it and forget the rest, I guess.
I'd take up the whole shelf up there.
Alright, Habu STS, we're looking at our manual here. Required tools, Phillips screwdriver. And I'm looking at everything. So we'll pause the camera here and then come right back. Showing us where all our stuff is and showing us where all the hardware is. So it's just a matter of identifying your hardware, the screw length, and a little bit of common sense, and start throwing this thing together. Step 1 is joining the main section onto the main wing onto the fuselage. That's step 1. Getting these two halves connected. As well as the corresponding hardware to go along with that, which I'm sure is going to be in this bag here with our landing gear. It's only the second airplane I've ever assembled, boys and girls, so hey, bear with us. And once again, this is just more for our channel subscribers than it is for anybody else. Feel free to watch and hang out if you're new. It's new for me too. Excuse me. We got a little bit of Velcro or soft padding here. I'm not too sure what this is for, but I'm sure we'll find out. So we'll have to refer to the manual. It might be for the battery. Once again, this is our nose gear. It has a little spring coil on the gear, or coiled spring on that wheel. I didn't notice that before, but it does have a little coiled spring here leading down to this nose wheel. Now, initially I was thinking that this was about the same size as the Aero Scouts landing gear wheels, but it's not. Slightly smaller outer diameter and definitely a little bit thinner than the Aero Scouts gear. No doubt about it. But spring loaded. So that's interesting to see. And that's pretty easy to attach. Just got to plug it in, slide it in here, and attach our corresponding screws. Alright, looking at all our hardware, we've got 9 small self-tapping screws right here, which I think are for our landing gear. Probably need 8 of them. Maybe they gave us an extra. We've got 6 self-tapping screws right here, which are slightly larger. Not too sure what those are for. We've got 3 machine screws, M3s right there. Not too sure on the millimeter. 16, 18 range. And 3 more machine screws over here, slightly longer, 22, 23 range. What do we got? 25 millimeters. So 3 25s and 3 16 millimeters. And we're going to be using 8 of these 2 millimeter self tappers right here for the nose gear. And our machine screws to hold our main wing on right here. We're showing the longer machine screws on the outsides of the wing. Right here for the 2 25 millimeter screws go in right here. And our 16 millimeters go in right here and right here. So the shorter screws go here, the longer screws go there. And we're using 8 screws, self-tappers, small, to hold the landing gear in right here. So far, that's where we're at. So we'll start with this, since they showed this going on first, and plugging this in. And we've got an S connector right here, so we don't really have to do anything, it's just a matter of guiding this up somewhat and plugging it in. As long as you have it somewhat lined up, it should go pretty easy, just like that. Just like that. Piece of cake. Try to fight for the M3s here. Sometimes getting these little Ziplocs, these little bags open can be tough. Snap locks. So they say the longer screws will go right here on the outsides according to the manual. Looking twice just to make sure. And the shorter ones go fore and aft. Alright, we'll drop these guys in. These are Phillips. And get our 2 shorter ones put in place. Yeah, taking a lot to get that thing to bite. And she's through. I can feel it with my finger. It's just coming out the other side. Oh, maybe they need to give you slightly longer screws. Or improve that setup just a wee bit. So we've got all those tightened down. Not so easy. They put up a little bit of a fight. Alright, moving on to our nose gear. Once again, are going to be these smaller self-tapping screws, and we're going to need 8 of those. 8 out of 9. As well as plugging in our servo, which is got a lead going in right here. There's our S connector. Make sure you match up your wires corresponding. Orange to orange, red to red, brown to brown. and make sure you put your landing gear in the right direction. Which is backwards from what I was thinking. Okay, so it goes in this way. Just like that. There's 9 screws in the bag, but we only need 8 of them. 8 for this project. And they are small. I like how the nose gear is easy to replace and has its own separate servo. Unlike the Aero Scout, which the nose gear is connected via a servo horn with no servo saver. No servo saver. And then it goes back to the main servo, which is in the fuselage. So it has a linkage going to the servo in the fuselage with a double horn on it, and the other half goes to the tail rudder. So one half of the servo moves the tail rudder left and right, and the other half moves the nose gear left and right. And this has its own separate servo. Once again, just getting these started. Not going to send any of them home just yet, not until we have them all started. We're just going to start snugging these down. I'm going to try to cross torque it slightly with some of this stuff. There's 4 screws close together by the rear portion of the landing gear. I see my flash flicker there. It usually means the camera's locked up. So I'm just going to cross torquing these 4 screws back here, in between talking about my camera locking up. Or possibly not locking up. Is that still recording you? How many minutes is it on? Let's check this thing. Pardon me, boys and girls. Alright, well, we were running long on that video, boys and girls. 35 minutes. I'm not too sure how much of what we got and how much we didn't get. Usually I like to stop my camera about every 22 minutes. And normally I have a stopwatch going. I'm not too sure if we missed anything along the way, but we're kind of lightly cross-torquing these down, which I don't think we really have to do. But and regardless. So just run them in until they stop. I'm not taking them any further than that. Once it stops, it stops. It's on. No need to send it any farther, and no need to poke a hole in the plane by putting down too much pressure. Alright, so we got our nose gear. We've got our main portion installed. Main lower wing section. And now we're going to turn the page and move on to the next section. Installing our rear wheels, or the mains, and the tail rudder and elevator. And the cone on the rear, which which is what the what the tape is for. Apparently, all this clear stickers, these 4 clear stickers, are to hold the tail bone section on. So, yeah, it seems kind of cheap, but okay. All right, we'll see what happens with that. Checking out our other wheels. Very simple looking. A and B. Of course, I'm looking at everything upside down. Yeah, I guess it's not too hard to mess up. Pretty cut and dry as far as how this stuff goes together. Alright, well, let's show you. Pretty simple. There's a little hole here, and there's a couple slots right here. The way our wheel is shaped, like so. Just a matter of putting it in the hole, like so, and then clicking it into these slots. And that's it. Your wheel is engaged. We'll do the same thing on the other side. Put our landing gear in, and swing this around, snap that in place, and we've got our wheels on. We're getting closer. She's starting to look like an airplane. We need to do our tail section right now next. A little bit nose light. A little battery in it just to weigh it down a little bit here. Not the right size, but just a little bit of nose weight. Alright, moving on to our tail section. This guy right here. And our 2 corresponding servos, which are marked already. We got our rudder, RUD, and our elevator, ELV, or ELE. Sorry, ELE. You think it'd be ELV, but it's ELE. And they are pre-marked over here on the tail section as well, with 2 marks as to which is which. Camera's so far away, I gotta walk in on it. We'll see it here in a moment. We've got rudder and elevator, so they're both separated and they're both marked as to where that gets plugged in it. Same thing with your directions. Negative, positive, and S is signal. So the negative is going to be the brown wire, positive is going to be the red wire, and the signal wire is going to be the orange wire. Or white wire. Rudder and elevator. Our rudder is going into the top, our elevator is going into the bottom. And so we'll plug our elevator in first. With our ground, which is our brown wire, facing the left side. So the ground wire is facing left, this way. Same thing with our rudder. Hopefully they've got those stickers laid out in the right spot. I'd hate to be plugging these in upside down. Alright, so we're going to line up our tail section and get this slid in place. It has 2 little locator pins. The wires are pretty tight here. There's not much extra room for clearance with our wires here. So take it easy on that stuff as you're sliding it together. Rear section fits into 2 notches as well. We've got a couple notches back here on either side. You guys aren't seeing them, but there's a couple pins here. This is terrible. Alright, so we got 2 locator pins right up here. One here, as well as 2 others on the front half. So all these need to line up when you're putting this together. We got our fronts lined up, we're getting our backs lined up, just like that. And that is snapped in place. Alright, so there is some screws to connect this, I'm sure. And we got some wires here that we need to push out of the way so they're not going to interfere with anything else. And we have to hook up a linkage going to our tail rudder as well. So we'll see what kind of hardware we need for these guys. Which is going to be 3 2.5 by 8mm self-tappers. 3 2.5 by 8mm self-tappers. That's our bigger self-tapping screws. If I can get the bag open. And make sure not to mix it up with the small screw. We're going to start off with 2 of these right off the bat, and we're going to be putting them into the back of the plane, right back here on either side. There's 2 locations, one here and one here, right on either side of our ailerons. You can't miss the holes, boys and girls, so they're right there, and that's where these guys get installed. Our first 2 screws to hold our back section down. These are self-tappers, so they're biting pretty quick. The machine screws, they weren't biting so quick. Had to push down quite a bit to get them to bite. These, you really want to make sure that you don't over-tighten these. Just making sure it's snug and everything is mated down evenly and compressed together evenly. And we know it's all together right. Rudder sticker. Driving me nuts. Excess wire. Alright, on to the tail. Now the tail's going to have 2 more screws going in right here on either side to get that connected in. So let's take a peek at that. Our next 2 screws are going to be right here and right here on either side. We also have to hook up a linkage going to our rudder to get that hooked up. Our linkage is right here. Clevis, that's the word I was looking for, clevis. That's what it's got on it. And our last 2 screws went in right here and right here on either side. We're going to hook that linkage in up here on one of these holes. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 holes. So one of these we're going to put it on, and same thing on the other side. Whatever is going to give us the most degree of throw, left to right. What do they tell us to do? Let's read the manual. Old Manuel. What you say, Manuel? Now they're showing it marked on the outer hole of each control arm. Alright, so number 1, our tail section, we have to feed the servo horn through a little gap on the tail section. So we're going to have to kind of weave that thing in there real quick to kind of fish our servo horn through. And then our push rod going to our clevis is getting hooked up onto the last hole on the servo horn and the last hole on our linkage there going to the rudder. And then once again with our tail, our cone on the back being held in place with those stickers, it's kind of lame. It's being held in with stickers. But all right, whatever. Stickers or tape, clear tape, or glue. Probably don't want to use glue, or else you won't be able to get it back apart. All right, so getting our tail section back on or put in place. Got to feed it through that hole. So feeding our tail section through just like that. Getting it put in place just like that, which is very, very simple. Doesn't seem like it's held together very well. I'd like to see another hole back here. Oh, there is a hole back there. Okay. There is a third hole in the back, boys and girls, and it's hidden underneath our rudder, right back here. So thought I'd show you guys and gals that. I'm sorry for the unprofessionalism, but we've got our 2 screw holes right there once again, and our third is right back here. Right there, rudder. So that is being held down securely. Thank goodness for that. Alright, so we're going to use 3 more of those screws and get this put back in place. Make sure they're going in straight. That one doesn't feel like it's going in too straight. Damage your foam in the process. Didn't like the way that was feeding in there, and I don't like the way that screwdriver feels. Grab another one. Put my thumb on the front to hold this down as I get this a little bit closer to where it needs to be. Switching over to the other side. Snugging them down. Don't know what I'm screwing into on this side. Don't know if it's foam or if it's into plastic or what we're screwing into. If it was foam, it would have stripped out real easy. So we must be screwed into something of substance down there. Be careful with this last one that we don't damage the tail. We almost need a stubby screwdriver for this. Or a really, really long one. Coming at it somewhat sideways. How much torque I'm putting down, I'm not sure, because I'm kind of hitting that on the angle. Gotta be careful with that. I think we're good. Feels solid. Yeah, I think we're good. Alright, so we've got that firmly attached, and we just need just a matter of hooking up our linkage at this point in time. Which is going to be almost impossible for you guys and gals to see out there. We'd have to put another battery in here to weigh this baby down. Possibly two. Alright, so we've got our clevis here. And where did we put our manual at? Oh, it's over here. Okay. Well, hopefully this is adjusted out to the right spot. And we'll get our clevis put in place, just as they described, sliding in from the top down on their servo horn, just like that. And then just a matter of getting it hooked up on here, providing that our servo is centered. So really, you should probably plug in the transmitter, plug in the batteries, make sure everything's centered before we hook this up and get that dialed in. That way we know where we need to be. So, do we have a battery that we can plug into here? I think we do. We got a 3S that we can plug in. I think we can get this thing somewhat hooked up. We still have to put our tail section on, but we want to get our servo centered, so let's take our included batteries, install them in the transmitter, positive to positive and negative to negative, following the correct polarities as you go. Don't mess up your orders. Stubborn. One battery that just doesn't want to let go. Alright, there we go. Positive to positive and negative to negative. Follow all the polarities when you're installing your batteries, boys and girls. Alright. Turning our transmitter on. Transmitter always gets turned on first, making sure throttle's in the down position and our throttle cut is turned on, which I think is there. Yep, I think it's in that position. Could be wrong. We'll find out here, won't we? Okay. Is that everything? And hopefully our motor is off. Nope, that's on. Okay, so that's on. That's off. I'm wrong every time on this stuff, you know. On, off with the motor. So I'm running this on an Aeroscout battery right now just to power up our rudder once again. This is what I wanted to make sure was centered, so. Alright, there we go. We got it in the center. We're going to go ahead here and unplug this. Shut off our transmitter. And get our servo horn put in place. Which I'm sure we're going to have to adjust. Because that is definitely not going to be not going to be where it needs to be. So we got to spin this thing in quite a bit. Hopefully we've got enough thread to work with. Wow. Hopefully that rod's not going to be touching this thing because it's getting pretty darn close. I'm going to take it out a little bit. Brought it in just a little bit too far. Trying to line this up so that the fin is straight with the fin back here, and looking at a pin to make sure that that's going to be even with the hole. I think right about here, perhaps. Maybe just one more turn. There. We'll try that. Well, I think we need to go out just a little bit further. And maybe one more turn. And one more turn. Yeah. I think we'll be good. Getting really close. Either going to be too little or too much, one or the other. Well, it is perfect right there. Alright, so we got it lined up just where we need to be. It seems to be even. Left to right, right there. We spun it out as far as we need to slide it, and we need to, this basically just spreads open, boys and girls. Pretty easy to spread that open and disconnect it. So it's got a little rubber retainer on here. We need to slide that back over top of the pin to get that to hold in place. So let me set this down. It's kind of hard to do two things at once there. Holding the plane. Get this put back in place. I'm going to pinch it together with my fingers just like that. I'm going to slide this rubber part backwards like this to here. So it's making, not really making contact, but it's covering up the end and squishing this together back here. So there we go. We've got our tail rudder put in place. Just a matter of putting our tail, our cone on the back, and I think we can pretty much wrap it up right there. As far as the battery goes with this plane, we ordered the 3S 4000 milliamp pack, and it hasn't showed up yet. Plane came out of one place, and the battery came out of another. So plane showed up first, and here is that part of it. Alright, so we got all that done. We just need to slap our nose cone on. Where are we at? 20 minutes and 30 some seconds. We need to change the tape. Alright, continuing along. With their nose cone. Or tail cone. Not nose cone. Made of foam as well. Everything's made of foam. Cone is made of foam. This insert. Is it going to make it any faster by putting this on there? Is it going to make it any slower by putting this on there? Is it an air restriction? Oops. Okay. So we got our cone slid in. It slides in there relatively snugly. Our batteries are trying to fall out here. And we just need to line this up and put a couple pieces of tape on it. This does have a couple little corresponding grooves on the plane that kind of match up with the grooves that are on the tail portion here, this gap. I guess as long as you get those lined up, you should be good to go. As far as stickers go, they only show one piece of tape going on there. But I'm sure you're going to want to put more. Alright, so they gave us 4 pieces of tape and they only show one going in place. We'll take a peek at that. So you guys and gals get the idea, you know what I'm talking about. One piece of tape right there holding this in place. So you might want more than one. Maybe one here, maybe one on the other side, and a third one on the bottom. 3 possibly, to keep that held in check. It's not like you're going to see them on camera. And better safe than sorry. Rather have them connected than losing our tail. So more tape the better, right? Alright, we got our included little sticky squares. And they are clear, so watch your fingerprints. One piece for sure. Get a second piece put in place. Sorry for blocking your view, boys and girls. I put one piece right here. One piece right here, and another piece right on the other side, in the same spot. I'm probably going to add one more, maybe to the bottom, or maybe 2 more to the bottom, down here. And get that totally put back in place. Maybe we'll add 2 more to the bottom. Oh, and there goes my batteries. There's a battery in there, did you know that? There we go. Just at the table. Yeah, it was a smart battery, and it was not a smart thing for me to do. Back in place. And that's pretty much it, boys and girls. Our airplane is pretty much done at this point in time. Still got one lithium polymer sitting in it right now, which is not the right battery. It's only a 2200 milliamp pack. And it is way too light for this thing. You'd have to get this thing shoved all the way to the front in order to get it to level out, and it's still not leveling out with this smaller battery in it. We'll try it out and check our thrust. We're going to pretty much get the same kind of thrust out of it with this 3S battery that we will with the 4000 milliamp pack. We're using a 2200 milliamp pack in it right now, 2.2 amp. And once again, only difference with the amps is your runtime. So the higher the amperage, the longer the runtime. 2200 milliamp versus 4000 milliamp is what it calls for. This one's a little bit lighter, but we're going to have the same amount of power going to the motor. That part hasn't changed. Checking out everything on the inside. We've got a receiver lit up right here. And the other half of our flight controller lit up in blue down here, which is kind of cool. Blue light special on that one. Our control surfaces, once again, everybody's seen this on other people's videos. They're automatically trying to correct the different angles of the plane. The ailerons are moving. Tail rudder's moving. Our elevators are moving. So it's trying to counter-react everything. Get our canopy kind of put in place so we can see what that looks like all together. Pretty snug fit. It just latches in. There's a release right there to pop it loose. That's in pretty snug, really. Pretty good fit. As far as power, I'm not too sure. It'd probably blow the camera back off the tripod, so I don't know if we really want to be hitting that or not. You can definitely see it spinning in there. Try to hold our plane so you guys can see. I don't know if you can see that thing or not in there. I'm in a bad angle here, boys and girls. Okay, there's our motor. It's got some thrust. It's just barely giving it any gas. That's pretty cool. I'd be afraid to blast it off the floor. It might kick up a bunch of dust. Not enough thrust to hold itself in the air. It won't stand straight up. It will not take off on its own from that height. So there you go on that. Doesn't have enough juice to hover. But it's pretty cool. We got her all together. Killer motor, so we're not going to hurt anything. We got it in safe mode. Turn into experience mode and get even more throw on your ailerons, as well as your elevator and your rudder left or right. Well, maybe not on the rudder. We'll see. Let's see. Put it in safe mode. We still got the same kind of rudder authority. The rudder stays the same, so the rudder doesn't matter from each mode. That stays the same for left and right. But your ailerons and your elevator should give you a little bit more. So we're in safe mode right now, and we're barely getting any downward force with our elevators back there. Getting a little bit upward, but barely any downward movement. Same thing in a lot there. So intermediate mode, we're getting barely any movement. Again, you can see it right here on the seam. Hard to hold up the plane and show you that, boys and girls, but we are getting barely any movement. That's intermediate mode. Fully up, pulling up, pushing down fully. That's intermediate mode. Safe mode, there's full up, there's full down. Experience mode, full down and full up. A lot more downward movement in experience mode versus intermediate and safe. Intermediate and safe are only going about this far, versus experience going almost 3 times as far. So that's interesting. And once again, same thing with your elevators. This is on experience mode. We're getting full pull left and right. Intermediate, slightly less. And safe mode would be even less than that. far as our rates go, that is this switch right here. This is high rates, and this is low rates. A little bit slower versus that one. And that's just the reaction time around 0, which is the 0 point right here, how fast it reacts going left and right from 0. That is a little bit slower to react left and right from 0. So it's a little slower reaction initially to a faster reaction. So there you go on the rates. Alright, we are showing 2 bars on our battery because these batteries are at a storage level charge right now. And it's not necessarily safe to me running them like we are. Alright, so we got the transmitter on still. We're going to disconnect the power on the plane. Get our battery out of here. If we can get our canopy disconnected. Trick to that, okay, a little bit snug. Get our battery disconnected. We're going to put another battery in here just to hold this thing down. Put our canopy back on. Not good to store your batteries in your vehicles. Don't do that, boys and girls. It's not safe. And shut our transmitter off. Camera's off the tripod. Quick peek at the plane. Good looking plane once again. Only the second plane on our channel. And once again, going from the Aero Scout right to the EDF. Aero Scout being mine, EDF being my brother's. How do you like it, Ian? There she is all put together. Happy birthday, man. That is a sweet jet.
That's really cool.
That is cool. I bet you're looking forward to getting that thing in the air. Maybe are you scared? Yeah. A little scared to fly it, or?
A little nervous, but make some more of that first.
Yeah, hit the simulator a few more times. It's not quite the same plane in the simulator. It's the regular Habu in the simulator, not the STS training model. So the real flight simulator, we've got Phoenix 5.5, which is an older one. Once again, discontinued. This particular one. But the newer real flight version has the Habu in it. So the STS 70 millimeter. So yeah, if you want to fly this one in a simulator, you need to get the real flight simulator. We do have the Habu in this one, but it's just the regular original Habu. And I believe that's like the SS style 70 millimeter. Yeah, same thing, sort of, kind of. This was based off of that. Definitely a good looking bird, no doubt about that. Once again, the landing gear being held in with these screws across the bottom. Went in pretty easy. A little air cooling going through the front there for the servo. Lots of airflow going back towards that ducted fan in the rear. On either side. Good vents going in. Taking a look at the ailerons. Once again, control surfaces are kind of small on the plane, but it gives you lots of room to add flaps. So you can add flaps on here if you wanted to. Cut them in, sand off the corners, and use some zip ties for hinges, and glue them in place, and get some hardware. You could add flaps to it if you wanted to. It definitely has room for that on the wings. You could add some pretty fat flaps on the back of here. There's a lot of surface area back here. And check out the tail section once again. Our servo horn, linkage here, going to the clevis, and back to our connection point here for the rudder, and elevators, and going on the rear, which had stickers holding it down. Still not sure what this is for. I didn't see what that was for in the manual. That little piece of tape. Alright, well, they tell us how to CG this thing out, but we don't have the battery yet, so we won't be worried about that until we take this thing out for its first flight. They want you to hold it upside down and find some certain points on here. Measured out, 80 millimeters back from the leading edge of the wing root, right there. And CG points right there and there. Let me show you CG in this baby upside down. There's a real flight dongle. And they show you some basic stuff, some takeoff and landing stuff. Read the manual, boys and girls. A lot of good information in here on takeoffs and landings. How to flare it out before you come in. That's where that LAS sensor would come in. The landing assist sensor. It would automatically flare your rudder for you, or your elevator for you on the way in. But you pretty much want to do that, learn how to do that manually. Just put a little flare on your own. So make sure to read your manual if you get one, boys and girls, and go through all the instructions. Still not sure what that little piece of fuzzy tape is for. Not even sure if they show it in here. I know it's not very professional. They really don't even show it in here. So, not sure what this is for. Alright, so this little fuzzy piece right here, the soft fuzzy piece, is actually for the battery. So when you do eventually get a battery, this double-sided piece of hook and loop is what it is essentially. This will stick to here. So that's exactly what that is. That's the hook and loop portion to attach to your battery. So cut off a small section of this, or however much you want to use to put on your battery, so you can get it adjusted. You might want to try it without any hook and loop tape on here and get your CG laid out right before you put this on your battery. That way you know where you're going to put it on your battery, so you know where to have your battery in the plane. Because it only has one spot right here and one spot right there, and it's not long enough to hit both spots at the same time, really. So you might want to CG your plane out beforehand, and then decide where you want to apply your hook and loop tape. So there is our hook and loop right there. So that is going to do it. Very much appreciated for y'all sticking around and watching the video. Questions and comments are always welcome. Once again, this is not necessarily a professional unboxing video on an airplane, just a show and tell on my channel. So there it is. Next time we get this thing out, we'll probably have both planes out, and hopefully keep them in one piece. Alright, so that's going to do it. We will see you all on the next video. Thanks again.